Good morning to both of you. Mark Butler, Middle East peace, has Donald Trump done it?
Well, these are early first steps on a very long road to peace and recovery, Nat, but it is really hard not to be excited that maybe the worst of this awful conflict is behind us. The prospect of hostages returning to their families in Israel, defence forces starting to withdraw from Gaza, humanitarian aid flowing again to civilians there. It is very hard not to be excited that we are finally on the road to peace.
And what hope is there that this would hold, Mark Butler?
Well, of course, there have been prospects of peace in this region time and time again over decades. We don't underestimate the possibility that things can fall off the rails, which is why we do urge all parties to stick to the letter of President Trump's 20-point plan. This is a very important plan that finally could bring an enduring just peace to this region. It's a great credit to the Americans, to President Trump, but also to Arab leaders in Egypt, Turkey and Qatar and other members of the Arab League who've worked so hard to bring the parties to the table and set out a really coherent, pretty compelling plan for peace and security.
Jane, if this goes through, Donald Trump promised he would do it. If this actually happens, should Trump be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for brokering the deal?
Well, Nat, I don't know how those things are assessed. And as Mark said, this is early days, but he's right. 734 days since Hamas's incursion into Israel that caused so much havoc, 1,200 deaths, 250 hostages, 48 of whom still remain in captivity. This is a really good start. I mean, let's face it, while our Prime Minister was off virtue signalling at the UN about Palestinian statehood, Donald Trump was out there actually brokering a deal. Now, whether it leads to that strong and enduring and lasting peace remains to be seen. Mark's right, it's early days of the 20-point plan, but if he does succeed, you name me who else deserves the Nobel Peace Prize.
Mark, would Australia back Donald Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize over this?
Well, I don't think we have a vote. I think the prize is announced over the next 24 or 48 hours. So I suspect a decision has been made. At the end of the day, it's not about prizes. It's about peace.
It is for Donald Trump.
Security
he wanted
and stability in a region. Well, I think at the end of the day, he wants to see peace in the region. He's been clear in his calls for a ceasefire. He's put enormous energy and time into this. He's obviously pressed his allies in Israel, but also supported the work of Arab leaders that I've talked about. This has been a very, very broad-based effort to bring peace after this 2 years of awful conflict. But American leadership, as always, is utterly critical to what happens in the Middle East, and President Trump has demonstrated that leadership.
OK, speaking of awards, South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas has received a top political leadership award for state and territory leaders, being described by both rivals and judges as a, quote, model premier who's restored pride in his state. Mark, this is your premier. You're in Adelaide. What do you think of this? Party Pete, they're calling him.
Well, I'm wondering whether this is a cheap excuse to bring up that photo of Mallee in the pool with his top off, proving a pretty clear exception to the long-standing rule that politics is show business for the ugly, Nat. But this is a very richly deserved prize nonetheless. This is a premier who's driving economic activity in our state, and that's hard to do in a state as small as South Australia, but also leading national debates on things like social media limits for kids and teenagers and donations reform in politics. He's a terrific bloke. I'm proud to have him as the leader of our state in South Australia.
Okay, I think he's pretty good too, Nat, I have to admit. You know, he's the only premier that's out there that's pro-nuclear, pro-uranium and pro-growth, pro-economic growth. So I can understand why this is. Maybe, though, Mark, you want to, raise your popularity, get your kid off and hang out by the swimming pool. What do you reckon?
It's breakfast time. I don't know whether Australia wants to talk about politicians without their shirts off at 7:20 in the morning. But thank you very much. You've both endorsed Party Pete. He'll be very, very happy. OK, quit the music. See you guys. See you next week. Here's David.
Thanks, Nat. Well, the New South Wales court